Well, hi everybody, and welcome to round 11 of the $500,000 Nippon Denso Supercross Series here in Tempe, Arizona. Right now we're standing at Sun Devil Stadium, where a crowd of over 50,000 people is expected to witness round 11 of this Supercross Series right here, all part of that big $100,000 Nippon Denso Point Fund. My name is Greg Barbacovi, and along with David Stanfield, who's joining me right here, we're going to be describing all the action for you right here at Sun Devil Stadium. You know, I gotta say, Dave, that I've never really seen crowd reaction like we have here in Tempe. They've never witnessed a Supercross race here in this city before, and these people have gone hog wild over such little things as practice.
Oh, they like it. Press day was Friday. The pro riders came in on Thursday. Press day was Friday, and they really loved that show. But over at the Devil House, where the ASU University goes to drink some suds and cool off, you wouldn't believe what happened last night. A rider went through there at speed. Ricky Johnson. Let's take a look at some of that footage.
And I want to remind you that we have Rick Johnson, leader in National Supercross Racing Series. He's the one on the motorcycle. We'll be up here with the freeway winners signing some autographs up here at the DJ booth.
RJ, anything to get into a dance hall without paying the cover price?
Hey man, I'm definitely the tightest of all the motocross racers. If I can find a way to get my way into a bar without paying a cover charge, hey, I'll do it, you know? They said, Rick, we'll let you in free if you bring your bike down, so I brought the whole truck hoping I could get my mechanic in free too.
He's sitting out on the tailgate just whining.
You know, Dave Stanfield, sometimes I think that Ricky Johnson will do anything to avoid paying a cover charge.
Well, he's going to have to pay a big price tonight. There's a lot of guys gunning for the win.
Well, before practice, you spoke to defending Supercross champ and last year's 250 national champ, Jeff Ward. He had some tough breaks at the beginning of this season, but let's see what his attitude is coming into tonight's race.
Got nothing to lose. You are the defending champion. A new attitude. The attitude is, I'm going for it.
Yeah, I've been doing it every week. I've just been having freak luck. You know, people have been knocking me down. I've been landing on people, and it's just it's been one of those years. It's you know, coming back though right now.
The 1984 Supercross champ, Johnny O'Mara, is third in the point standings, and although he's been almost mathematically eliminated from this year's title, he wants this one.
Any directions from the team managers on what to do, or is it still every man for himself out there?
Well, right now it's every man for himself. I haven't heard anything from, you know, my manager or anything like that, but you know, I wouldn't do anything to hurt either of the two, so I'm just going to be out there doing my best.
Now, David Bailey was parked right next to the O show, and he's determined to keep his winning streak alive.
You know, everyone is asking me, well, what are you going to do? And, you know, what are you going to change? Well, I don't want to change anything, of course, because the last three races I finished first. And, you know, I'm not trying to be really confident on that or anything, or take for granted that since I won those last three and coming off of that I have a ton of confidence I'm going to win the next two or anything. I think that I have a good chance. I'm just going to try and continue that streak, and you know, that's all that I can do. I can't cut the track and run into Rick, and you know, I mean, there's nothing that I can do other than go out there and go as fast as I can and put the pressure on Rick in a sense of, like, if I win him, he has to get fourth. If I was to get a second or a third and he's right back there, the points gap isn't very much, so there's really no pressure on him. I've got to win him.
And Ricky Johnson, he was as loose as an old bedroom slipper before the race, eager to hit the track and stretch out his points lead.
The pressure, you've had pressure before, coming down to the last couple of races, winning the 250 championships. The pressure now, is there pressure, or is it just another race?
Well, of course there's pressure because the championship's on the line, but that's not the way I'm going into it. I'm here, I want to win Phoenix. It's the first time they've had Supercross here, and I'm really looking forward to this race. I've worked really hard the 2 weeks I've had off. I went out and I won the Mickey Thompson event, so I'm looking forward to this.
All right, now let's get back to some live action here now. This is the first heat. Now in this race, the top 4 finishers will transfer directly to the main event. Everybody else, except for the last place finisher, will have to come back, or I should say will be able to come back in the semi, where they'll have to fight for another slot. Here we go with the start. On the inside, on the yellow bike, that's Eric Kehoe right there, and Kehoe holds on to that inside line and now jumps into the lead. Outside of the first turn, holy smoke, look at the way Eric has just ran away from everybody on the back straightaway. Eric, number 8 from Team Suzuki. Eric was ranked number 2 in the 125 national class last year. This year, he's currently in a tight points battle in the outdoor series with Team Honda's Mickey Diamond. Eric Kehoe, one rider to watch out for in this year's Supercross series. On a 250, not quite as comfortable as he is in the smaller 125, but he sure looks comfortable there as the green flag goes out and marks that this race does have an official start and is off. Now, once again, you've got to finish in one of the top 4 positions in order to qualify for the main event. And look at this gap that he's got. Holy smoke. Already, that looks like a good, solid 6 to 7 seconds out in front of everybody. He's got almost 1/3 of the track in between the two of them as they go through turn number 2. Here we're into the second lap now. This is at Tempe, Arizona. The temperature a little warm out here. You're still looking at about 80 degrees out there. Thank goodness the sun went down. The riders were kind of sweating a little bit during practice. But now that racing has actually gotten underway, the sun has gone down, the lights are on, the temperature and the humidity has kind of backed off, taking some of the pressure off of these riders here. This is Kehoe's second year for Team Suzuki. They're really pleased with the progress that he's made, not only in Supercross here, but also in the outdoor standings, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. Kehoe just came off a real nice win in the 125 class a couple of weeks ago. He won the 125 class at Hangtown, and right here has got a supersized lead over number 44, Ross Peterson, who has switched over to Yamaha this year. Remember, Ross is a rider who comes to us from down in Canada. Ross pretty far back, though, as far as the track standings go. All we've been able to do is keep track of Eric out on the track. You still cannot see second place as you look back over Eric's shoulder. Finally there, just cutting across the top of your screen, you saw just a glimpse of Ross Peterson, and back behind him was Ricky Ryan in third place. That was Ross at the bottom of the Yamaha. There goes Ricky Ryan. Ryan in third place. He used to race flat track. He's the top privateer in the Supercross point standings this year, sponsored by Randy Mamola, who still races flat track. There you got a good close-up look at Ross Peterson, the Yamaha rider from Canada we were telling you about, and the gap between the two riders, which is still a good, solid 5 seconds. There we are. The white flag is out. We've only got 1 lap left to go, and this has just been an Eric Kehoe walk-away. He's another one of the riders who gained all of his momentum as far as Supercross racing goes right in Southern California. Former member of the Indian Dunes Wrecking Crew, track where many of the people that you see out on this course here learned how to ride and race motorcycles. Eric, number 8, just trying to stay on top of the bike, stay cool, calm, and collected these last few yards out on the track. The reason he's got to stay cool is because he's got a very heavily taped wrist, and when we go down to David Stanfield, maybe we can find out exactly how Eric's wrist affected this race. Although you got to say, from the lead that he's got right here, it sure doesn't look like it affected him at all. Looking very smooth over the track, which some riders have complained is not technical enough. Got some gnarly whoop-de-doos right there. There's the finish. Checkered flag is out. Eric Kehoe will go ahead and take the win. So let's go down to the field and talk with Eric Kehoe and Dave Stanfield.
Thanks, Greg. Hey, I think you are a quick rider and you're on a fast track. The combination seems to work.
Yeah, I'm pretty light. You know, I can get a good start, and that seemed to help me out here, good traction and stuff. So I'm just going to go for the whole shot in that main and try to win it.
Eric, real quick point, your wrist now, it's just taped. What's wrong?
Yeah, I sprained it last week and tore some ligaments in it. I got it taped really tight. It's my clutch side, so it doesn't really matter too much.
Hey, hang in there. Great ride.
Okay, thanks.
Eric Kehoe, Team Suzuki. Take it away, Greg.
Thanks, Dave Stanfield. Now in this race, the second heat, we'll see Ron Lachine from Team Kawasaki, George Holland from Team Suzuki, and Jim Hawley from Team Yamaha. Those are the big guns that are in this race right here. On the inside, looks like Suzuki's got the whole shot, and that is George Holland, number 11. Comes from Kerman, California. They call him Boy George, just like the singer of the Culture Club. Look at this tight race we got. Holland goes way wide out there in the corner, and that may cost him the lead. Number 11, Holland went way wide, but look at this. Over the triples, he comes right back, and on the inside will take the lead. Oh, super comeback by George Holland. It looked like by going so far on that outside corner, he was going to blow it completely, but he comes right back on the next series of turns and takes it back. That's Jim Hawley right behind him, battling for the lead now. Hawley in the white jersey, and number 2 on the Kawasaki, Ron Lachine, trying to muscle his way up in there. On the inside, number 203, Jeff Leask, the rider from Australia, is the Honda rider, currently in 4th place. Boy, an all-out battle going out for second place as Holland is beginning to pull away a little bit from the pack. There goes Lachine on the inside of Hawley to take second place, and Hawley wants to come right back. You know, this is Jim Hawley's first full year as a factory rider. Even though Jim Hawley has been racing for years on the Supercross and Outdoor National Circuit, he never had a full factory ride until this 1986 racing season. Remember, it was at the end of last year on Moto Video that many of you folks saw Jim Hawley go ahead and take the Rodeo Cup. And that was the icing on the cake that earned him that berth on the Yamaha factory squad. So George Holland's got the lead on a Suzuki. On a Kawasaki in second place, number 2, Ron Lachine. Ron has had some troubles this year. Ron's had a little bit of personal problems. Some people have said that he just hasn't been able to concentrate enough on racing during this 1986 season. This is about the best that we've seen him in the last couple of weeks. Lachine, number 2, the defending 125 national champ, has been forced to concentrate on 250cc bikes this year. There again, you can see Holland taking that outside line and slingshotting right back into the lead. Lachine looked like he held the lead for a couple seconds, but that inside line on that hairpin turn is much slower than the outside groove. Hawley trying not to give up at all. Jimmy Hawley in third place, number 12 on a Yamaha. You know, Jim, I talked to him just before the race, and he says that the factory ride really has helped him a great deal this year. Even though Jim was used to calling his own shots as a privateer, he pointed out that this, 1986, is the first season that he's been able to finish consistently in the top 10 in Supercross. That, of course, very important to a rider who wants to keep a factory contract. Number 11, George Holland, a guy who's been in and out of Team Suzuki for the last couple of years, looking very strong out on the track. There, on that hairpin turn, you saw George for the first time take the inside line. Remember, every lap before this, he's been going way to the outside of the berm and has been forced to come back and shoot back into the lead on the straightaway. It's a little change in strategy there. Lachine, number 2, second place. You can see the gap between first and second has opened up to about, a second and a half, maybe even 2 seconds. But now Lachine beginning to charge. Right there in the sand pit, that is probably the most difficult obstacle that these riders have to face because it's hard dirt. Underneath, whoa, Lachine goes ahead and slams the door shut on Holland. Lachine really completely took over George Holland's line right there by drifting out completely to the outside and forcing George Holland to back off the throttle. If Lachine would have stayed tight on the inside, Holland would have been able to come back, goose the throttle, and retake the lead, but he didn't. He veered almost directly in front of George. There you saw the white flag is out, 1 lap left to go, and I can't see where Lachine is going to have any problem holding on to the lead now. The gap between first and second place is up to about 3 seconds. Back in third place is still Jim Hawley. Jeff Leask, the Australian rider, has dropped quite a distance back, although he's still in fourth place. So it's the last lap, and Ron Lachine looks like he's earned himself a free ticket to the main event. Of course, he had to earn it, coming off the starting line in second place, held the lead for a couple of moments, but then really had to do some serious battling with George Holland before that pass, which finally put him up into first place. So it looks like the 1983 AMA Rookie of the Year is going to have it. After this next turn, he'll move up and take the checkered flag. There's a last look over his shoulder to make sure that Holland can't come back, and he's got it. Ron Lachine. Let's go down to the field and David Stanfield as we find out what Ron has to say.
Thanks, Greg. Lachine, man, when I think of you, I think of just such quick riding. You are on a fast track, and you really know how to get the power to that rear wheel. Is it your kind of track?
Well, it's a little bit my kind of sort of track. It's kind of flat out there, and you really got to be working on getting the traction to the ground, and it's tough.
Did you have it? You feel like you had it in the pocket the whole time? You just knew you were just looking for a place to pass?
Well, it wasn't that easy. I'd like to say it's that easy, but I was just trying to stay real calm, hold my lines, and pass them when I could.
You did it. It was beautiful.
Thanks.
Ron Lachine, first heat victory. Heat number 2 now. Heat number 3. Back to you, Greg.
Well, before we go to heat number 3, Dave, let's take a look at the beautiful nighttime skyline of Tempe, Arizona, with Phoenix out in the background. Earlier today, we sent our Moto Video kamikaze cameraman Dennis Shannon out to capture the flavor of these two cities. You know, Arizona State University is in Tempe, Arizona, while Phoenix is the capital of Arizona. Now, many people think of Arizona as nothing but an arid, dry state. But you know, if you take the time to look between the cacti, you can actually see quite a bit of beautiful plant life and vegetation. This area is surrounded by desert. However, there are plenty of urban attractions as well, including the Phoenix Zoo, where exotic desert animals can thrive in their own natural habitat. Phoenix is also known as a recreational hotbed, with golf as a popular pastime, even if your game isn't up to par. The city forefathers have even figured out a way to bring surf to the Inland Empire. So no matter what kind of recreational activity you enjoy, Phoenix and Tempe have something for you. We're back to live action now with heat number 3. In the center of your screen, defending Supercross champ Jeff Ward, number 1. Keep an eye on the guy over on the inside, too, over on the right-hand side of your screen, number 24, Billy Lyles. Billy on the inside from Georgia has been a factor in many Supercross races this year. Here we go with the start. It's a Yamaha out in front. That's number 19 out of San Antonio, Texas, Danny Storbeck. And once again, as we've seen in each of the 2 heat races before this one, the guy with the hole shot has really been able to pull away from the pack on that back straightaway. Let's count them down here. Number 19, Storbeck, off the tabletop there with the lead. 9 in second place is Keith Bowen. Back in third off the starting line. That sure looks like Jeff Ward right there with Billy Lyles back behind him. So number 19, Danny Storbeck, the guy who took 8th place in the 250 Nationals in 1985, but who has been surprisingly consistent in 1986. He's been a guy to watch out for. Number 37, Billy Frank, is the rider back in 4th place, and after Billy Frank, you go to Billy Lyles, number 24. It's looking like a 3-man race so far. And up on top right now, 2 Yamahas. 1 support rider in the lead, Storbeck, and the factory rider behind him, Keith Bowen. Whoa, Bowen on the inside. Was that a sweet pass? Bowen, even though he had that tough, slippery inside line, was able to put his front wheel right down in front of Storbeck and take the lead away from him. And now Jeff Ward, defending Supercross champ, is going to try and do the same thing on Bowen. There he is, putting his front wheel underneath him. His back tire actually clipped Bowen's front end, and Ward is able to use that momentum to catapult himself across the finish line first and into the lead. Oh, a beautiful pass by Jeff Ward right there. He was able to get that front tire down on the inside of that line and effectively block off the path of number 9, Keith Bowen. Smooth, smooth pass. Number 1, Wardy now beginning to catch up with some of the lower or slower riders out in the field. This track surface out here is a little on the hard side. Remember that we have got some off-road cars, which we'll be seeing a little bit later on here on the television show, which have really been packing down the dirt tight. Makes for kind of tough traction. It's been a little on the slippery side. White flag is out. We got 1 lap left to go. Ward is on top. Bowen, even though he got passed by Wardy a couple laps ago, still hanging tight in second place. Remember, the top 4 riders will all transfer directly to the main. Ward has had a tough year this season. Boy, after that heartbreaking first race of the year back at Anaheim, where he broke a simple throttle cable and was not able to make it to the main event, all the way up to Pontiac, where he crashed with Brock Glover. A tough, tough year for Wardy, who already has been mathematically eliminated from the 1986 Supercross chase. Well, he's about ready to get a checkered flag right here. He still wants to score as many points as he can, and qualifying for the main right here will help him do just that. Checkered flag out, defending champ Jeff Ward with the win.
Greg, when you think of the number 1 plate, you think of it out front. The number 1 plate today, Jeff Ward, great heat race. I could tell at the start you were hesitant. Okay, let it sort out, and then once you could pick off the front runners, you did that in fine style.
Yeah, the track is really hard to pass, and I got off to about 4th place, and I didn't want to try to go outside on anybody to pass because then I'd get past myself, so I stuck there a couple laps. Then made some mistakes. I got into second. I wanted to get in the lead because I want to see how it feels like to be out front there. And I just slammed into the corner on him and I cruised it in from there. It felt really good.
It looks like a real key here is going to be using your brakes, how fast you can slide into those turns.
That's right. It's really slippery. You got to drive real hard, but yet you hit it too hard, you can go down quick. It's like ice, so it's really technical, and there's going to be some good racing in the main event.
Good to see you out front. Great race.
Thank you.
Jeff Ward, the number 1 plate, the man to watch tonight, possibly.
Way to go, Dave, but you better get out of the way. We've got the next heat starting off already. This is heat number 4. It could be a possible sneak preview of the main event because we've got Ricky Johnson, David Bailey, Johnny O'Mara, and Scott Burnworth all in the race. Burnworth streaks out to the hole shot. Scott the Burner Burnworth, hole shot rider number 19 on a Yamaha this year. Remember, for the last couple of years, he's been on a Suzuki. Number 5 is in second place, and that is Ricky Johnson. RJ, the guy who so many people have jumped on this year as far as the favorite for the Supercross title. It's really been a two-way race for much of the year between Ricky Johnson and David Bailey, and that's all that it's down to right now. As we pointed out earlier, Johnny O'Mara has been all but mathematically eliminated. Whoa, a little bail going on right there. One of the riders down, Honda rider number 34, Mike Byer, I can see him. that's the only guy who we can pluck out. It may have been Eric Eaton, the other rider, down. At any rate, the leaders all got through there okay. No problem for Burnworth, still in first place. Seems like every single race we have, Burnworth has got a different colored jersey on, though, doesn't it? Think back to Anaheim when he got the whole shot in the main event. He was all decked out in black at that point. Ricky Johnson, number 5, almost overshooting that corner, in second place a little bit. Ricky really seems to be working that Honda hard. Watch the way that his body is moving all over the bike. On the whoop-de-doos, he'll keep his weight towards the back, keep that front end as light as possible, but as soon as he goes into a corner, he dives for those handlebars to keep that front end down so that it doesn't wash out on him. The camera's focused on Scott Burnworth, the leader, and Burnworth and Ricky Johnson are not exactly the best of buddies. Again, back to Anaheim, it was those two riders who ended up bumping each other in the first corner of the main event, sending Burnworth down. And a couple laps later, when Ricky Johnson was enjoying a 9-second lead over David Bailey in the main event, it was Burnworth who Ricky was trying to lap when Ricky ended up losing that 9-second advantage, and Bailey ended up catching him and eventually passing him for the win. So to recap, your top 3 riders. Again, you've got Scott Burnworth on the Yamaha. You can barely see Ricky Johnson, number 5, in second place. David Bailey's trailing them both in third. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Bailey remains in third place for the entire race. Remember, as long as David stays in third, he'll still transfer to the main event. And if David Bailey stays behind Ricky Johnson, he'll be able to watch the lines on the track that Ricky is using. David's no dummy. He knows that RJ is one of the fastest riders, arguably the fastest rider out there. So David would like to see exactly what paths Ricky Johnson is using on the track so that he can use that information when they come back in the main event. Now RJ continuing to edge up closer and closer to Burnworth, while it looks like Bailey's really losing ground. RJ's really starting to attack these corners ferociously. Look at that. He almost kneed aside that hay bale right there. Coming up on the sand pit right now. That sand pit is treacherous. That third one is almost a wall. On the outside is RJ. He tried to go inside of Burnworth, but Burnworth is right there. Now he's on the inside of him again. Burnworth is going to have to give him some room. RJ goes to the outside and makes it so that Burnworth has to back off of the throttle. Oh, a really picturesque textbook pass right there by number 5, Ricky Johnson. Just like earlier when you saw that battle going on with George Holland and Jeff Ward, Ricky Johnson effectively cut off the path of Scott Burnworth so that Scotty had to back off of the throttle or run over Ricky Johnson, which obviously he would not want to do. Nobody wants to go down in the race if they can possibly avoid it. Checkered flag out. Great clicker by Ricky Johnson at the finish line, and the fans love it.
The man to beat, well, this guy has been winning a lot. RJ, great race. Looking back at the start, though, you were determined, a clean start. No hesitation at all, really solid. Did you feel good at the start?
Yeah, I did, but I waited a little bit too long before I dropped the clutch. I had in the back of my mind Dallas getting stuck in the gate, and that's a bad memory for me. And now that I got that out of the way, I feel really comfortable.
Earlier today, Dave Stanfield went back in the pits, not to pick up on girls, but some tips from the mechanics.
The number 3 Honda here, currently at number 3 in the Supercross Series, Johnny O'Mara's Honda, and his mechanic Jim Feld. Jim, the gas situation, it's kind of regulated by the AMA. Exactly what kind of gas do you use?
Well, right now we're using Daco gasoline, which is a gas that anybody can buy over the counter. They have a few brands that are out that anybody can buy. We're regulated within the rules to use a pump-type gasoline.
High octane, though?
High octane, yeah. It's usually between, it's over 100 and up to 125 octane you can get.
The number 12 Yamaha of Jim Hawley, Hollywood Hawley, the Rodale winner, World Supercross champion. His father, Al Hawley, maintains his machine. Al, a lot of the riders nowadays that are just recreational riders, they don't really know all the tricks to maintaining their bikes. Can you tell us one?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that a guy could do as far as maintaining his motorcycle is after he washes it, when he gets through racing or practice riding or recreation riding, is to service the cables, which most people forget about. And to service the cables is a very simple method. You just take the cable off at one end of the lever, and there's a little tool that goes on there that pressurizes the oil into it. WD-40 is what I use, and it keeps the cable free, and it doesn't have any binding spots or tight spots, and the riders like to have their cables working nice for them.
Always overlooked, but always used 1,000 times a year.
Right. It's very important. One sticky throttle cable can get you in trouble.
the number 8 RM Suzuki. This is Eric Kehoe's machine, and with me, Pat Alexander, the race manager of US Suzuki. Pat, we see safety wire here on the left side, the grips here, but we don't see it on the ride. Now, this is a safety feature, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's Suzuki, our racing mechanics. They safety wire the left side grip, and the right side grip is bonded directly to the this throttle assembly.
Now, safety wire is obviously not a standard item you get on your showroom floor, but anybody can do it, any recreational rider. Where else do you put safety wire on these works machines?
We put safety wire on the front, on the bolts for the disc brake, and also underneath the bike on the drain plug, the oil drain plug.
Now, you do this because you've learned through years of experience that things loosen up.
Well, yes, we try to be extra careful, you know, and we suggest that most everybody should be that way also, to keep from everything vibrating loose.
Jeff Ward's mechanic, Tom Halverson, the number 1 green machine. Now, say Jeff doesn't get the greatest start. Say he is, well, he doesn't get the greatest start and you had to give him signals. What kind of signals do you give him at the pit board along the side?
Well, that can be real important. If he's behind, we usually give him a signal like this, say. It says O'Mara +5 means Johnny is 5 seconds in front of Jeff, and this will say he has 6 laps left in the race to catch him. If this decreases during the race, he knows he's catching on Johnny. If it's decreasing, then he knows Johnny's pulling away from him. Also, we could make this -5 if Johnny's in the back of Jeff and Jeff's got the lead, say. And if this gets to 4, 3, he knows Johnny is closing in on him without having to look back and actually take away from his ride. He can just look at the chalkboard and know where he's at on the track.
Thanks, Dave. Some great reporting. Now let's get back to the live action. We're down to the semis. We've got 2 identical semifinal races where only the top 2 finishers will transfer directly into the main event. And it looks like Team Green's own Eddie Warren with the hole shot just inside of him right there. You saw number 30, Larry Brooks on a Honda go swirling by, and number 37, Billy Frank on the inside, back in 3rd place. Billy Frank, remember, that was the guy who did so well in heat number 3 where he came off the line behind Danny Storbeck. Unfortunately, he dropped way back and now had to come back here to the semi in order to qualify. So on top again, you've got Eddie Warren on a Kawasaki. There he is right there, number 23. Now, a year ago at this time, he was running in that 125cc Pro-Am class that the AMA instituted during the 1985 racing season. Since then, Eddie's graduated up into the big leagues. He's racing with the 250s right now, and although he doesn't make the main event every single week, Kawasaki's been very happy with his performance. Don't be surprised if he doesn't get a full factory ride next season. White flag is out right now. 1 lap left to go. Eddie Warren leading this thing the entire way. Larry Brooks, the youngest rider ever to get a full factory ride. That was from Honda when he was a mini-cycle rider. Has been in 2nd place the entire way. Billy Frank has been in 3rd, but has not been able to get by Brooks at all. It's just been Eddie Warren. And now coming up in 2nd place, it looks as though Brooks is about ready to make a kamikaze dive of his own right now. Brooks on the inside trying to crack open that can of sardines, but no, he very nearly killed his bike. You saw he lost all forward momentum and had to pop the clutch and plant his foot solidly just in order to keep going and to make that tight turn. That may have been his last chance right there. There's only 1 straightaway left now until the finish line, and it looks like Warren's going to have a fairly comfortable margin. Warren on to Kawasaki, over the whoop-de-doos, and indeed he will take the checkered flag in the semi-win. Larry Brooks in 2nd place. Let's go back to the starting gate now. This is semi number 2. Just like the race we just saw, only the top 2 finishers will transfer into the main event. Everybody else, well, they'll have to come back for the last chance qualifier. We got a Yamaha up on top with a Honda following close behind in 2nd place. Scott Manning, a rider from Southern California, has got the lead, and in 2nd, from all the way out in Stillwater, Oklahoma, you've got number 25, Guy Cooper. Now, Guy has really been amazing a lot of people out in the Supercross tracks this year. As a matter of fact, in Motocross Action, it showed a great picture of him up at Pontiac doing a one-handed cross-up. And whoa, speaking of getting crossed up, oh, Guy Cooper getting crossed up on the track rather than up in the air off a jump. He's going to lose about 5 positions because of that little tactical error right there. Now he's trying to keep his nose in front of number 15, Eric Eaton from Tacoma, Washington. At any rate, the checkered flag comes out, and number 53, Doug Duboc, will win semi number 2. Now let's go back to these things. They're called Class 10 vehicles, and Dave Stanfield can tell us what that means. Dave?
Let's take a close look of the Class 10 buggy, and the man that knows more about Class 10 buggies than a lot of other guys, Jim Fishback Jr. And Jim, Why did you get into Class 10 buggies? I know you as one of the fastest desert racers of all time on a motorcycle.
Well, it's a real safe sport, you know, and it's something different. After you get through with motorcycles, you kind of want to move on to something a little bit bigger, more expensive, and a little bit different. And the cars are that. It gives you as much excitement and thrill, sometimes more than a bike, and it's good.
Okay, let's start from the basics. Expensive. What's a good Class 10 buggy cost?
They're between $30,000 and $40,000. You buy them and you build them yourself. It's a bare frame, and you buy all the components, put them all together. It's like a big erector set. And it's quite a project. It takes you 3 or 4 months just to put them together.
Okay, let's start at the back end. We've got an engine back there. It's not your Volkswagen type engine. We're talking a highly modified engine. Can you give us the displacement and the horsepower and exactly what it is, how many gears?
It's 1650cc Volkswagen Type 1 air-cooled motor. There is Rabbits out here, which is a water-cooled motor. They're restricted in this class to 1 carburetor. And we have real high compression. You run about between 13 and 15 to 1. Special racing gas between 108 and 130 octane.
5-point seat belt, comfortable seat?
5-point seat belt. The seat is not real comfortable. What it is, it's fiberglass, solid fiberglass, no padding at all. It's molded to my back, all right, and that gives you no movement in the seat. A lot of times you can hit your butt on the floorboard of the seat and just drives your spine. Well, mine won't do that. My seat doesn't move. I'm positioned into the car firm. There's no cushion at all, and the cushion is the suspension of the car.
Well, you want to take the shock. Hopefully the shocks take the shock. I see so many of these big yellow things. Your suspension here, is that what takes the most beating out there on the track?
That takes a lot of the beating, yeah. We have 3 shocks on each of the rear wheels and only 1 on the front. The reason for that is you're trying to keep the front end light and don't let it touch that stuff. Just kind of let it walk over and hit the tops of it.
All right, let's see how many tops he can hit. The green flag out already. Now watch the start. Let's see who goes ahead and pulls the whole shot here. Wow, on the inside, a little bit of slamming. That is Jerry Welchel who gets the lead. You see that bright red light flashing? That's not a turn signal right there, although that's what it looks like. He installed that red light so that his kids and his family, when they're sitting up in the stands, could see his progress out on the track. As you can see here, a lot of these cars, they're tough to distinguish apart from each other. Their numbers aren't that big, and they all look very similar. But by Welchel having that bright red beacon right there, his kids always know where he is, and so that's why he put that sucker on. Look at this, we're only 1 lap into the race, and already he's got himself a good 4-second lead. Jerry Welchel comes from Anaheim. Whoa, here's some trouble. Carrying some hay bales up into the infield. That looks like Jim Nichols from El Cajon. He's got one of those 1650 VW bug engines. That's an air-cooled engine, number 23. Looks like he's going to be out of it right now. Whoa, Welchel in trouble. That's number 2. Welchel came very close to T-boning somebody right there. At any rate, he was able to pull it in reverse and get out. Now, it looked like 2 riders went by, but both of the riders who passed him were lapped riders. They were already down a lap. So Welchel did not lose the lead. Way back there in the back corner of your screen a second ago, you saw Jim Fishbeck Jr., number 11, who is still in second place. So number 2 is your leader. That's Jerry Welchel from Anaheim, Jim Fishbeck Jr. from Fontana in the number 2 spot. You know, it's kind of interesting coming into this race. There was a mini rivalry going on. Of course, there's quite a few riders, or drivers, I should say, in Southern California who are into Class 10 vehicle operation. There's also quite a few right here in the greater Phoenix, Tempe area. As a matter of fact, their racing association is called the Arizona Desert Racing Association, ADRA. So the people from California, the High Desert Racing Association, kind of have a little unofficial rivalry going on here to see who the top group of drivers is. Are they the group from California, the High Desert Racers, or are they the Arizona Desert Racers? Right now, California's got an awful powerful 1-2 punch right now, and there's the number 1 punch right there, Mr. Jerry Welchel. Sponsored by a company called Pipeline Trucking. That's where they get the funds to go ahead and keep these cars together. Remember these, whoa, look at the way they slam into the sides of those hay bales right there. These vehicles cost anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 to put together and maintain. That's an awful lot of coins. So you've got to have some serious sponsorships, unless you've got some pretty deep pockets of your own. Up, come to a dead stop right there. That looks like one of the Arizona drivers, Doc Ingram, number 33, who's sponsored by the Skoal Smokeless Tobacco Company. The Skoal Bandit right there. Doc is from Avondale, Arizona, but I guess he's going to be out of the race. Doc was one of the premier drivers from the Arizona area, so it looks like Welchel's going to have a pretty easy time cruising on down towards a win here. Any minute now, we ought to have a white flag out on the track, and then after that, of course, it'll all be over. Well, the thing to keep in mind is what is it these cars are doing? There you saw the white flag a minute ago. What is it that these cars are doing to the track for the motocross racers? Remember, we've still got another motocross race left to go, the main event coming up before much longer. Guess we'll find out in a couple minutes. There's the checkered flag, and Jerry Welchel from Anaheim takes the win. Let's go down to the field.
Jerry, great job. It was absolutely wild. You were taking inside lines, outside lines. You were doing some great guesswork and some great driving.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It takes a lot of years to learn how to do that kind of stuff. You just got to look out for the guys that are in your way and drive around them best you can.
You know, a lot of people are talking about this race being a race with, there's a lot of Arizona contingent riders out here, drivers out here, and it was going to be kind of Southern California and Arizona. Those guys put on a good show, but the Southern California guys seem to have an edge.
Right here, man. Southern California boys, we got it all the time.
Pour 'em up.
Yeah.
All right, Jerry Welchel and Jim Fishback dominating here at the Arizona Stadium.
Thanks very much, Dave. Now, while the cameras were reloading, we went and saw Guy Cooper win a wire-to-wire last chance qualifier. Here for the main event, what in your opinion is the key?
Concentration is the key here. The number 5 Honda, Ricky Johnson. Now he's concentrating heavily, and he has got to know what's going on, and he knows his opponent. His main opponent tonight is David Bailey, and looking down the line, you've got some great riders. There's Eric Kehoe. There's George Holland. And then coming to the number 6 Honda is David Bailey. The battle between Bailey and Johnson is going to be better than ever tonight. Back up top to you, Greg.
Thanks, Dave, for that on-field perspective. There we look at some concentration. Jeff Ward, David Bailey, number 6. Bailey still has a chance to take the number 1 plate here in the 1986 $500,000 Nippon Denso Series. There's Ricky Johnson with his helmet all the way over the bars, concentrating. Here we go, the start of the main event. It's 20 laps, and the winner of this race could very well come close to clinching the number 1 plate for the season. Wow, we got some Kawasaki's going way on the outside. Meanwhile, up in front, it looks like Yamaha with the lead. Burnworth, it looks as though, has taken one more hole shot. Ricky Johnson was on the inside, ended up going way to the outside end of that berm. Let's see if it helps him over here in this corner. RJ will come out of turn number 3 in 3rd place. So you got Burnworth up on top, Ron Lachine in 2nd. There he is. In 3rd is Ricky Johnson, Jeff Liskin 4th, and David Bailey. Bailey, I haven't seen at all in the top 5. Bailey in some kind of trouble. We'll get our spotters to get a look for him, but it's number 18, Scott Burnworth with the lead. Number 2, Lachine in 2nd, and RJ is back in 3rd. Now, this is exactly the kind of race that RJ wanted to run. He wanted to get a good start, not necessarily the lead, but somewhere up on top, right at the very beginning, so the pressure would be put on Bailey. We're still looking for him. Bailey is in dead last. At the end of the first lap, David Bailey was in dead last place. Here he is right now. No, that's number 9, Keith Bowen. We're still trying to get a spot on David Bailey coming up someplace. Counting way, way back. Finally, there he is. David Bailey, number 6, apparently went into the back end of a rider in the very first corner of the race, killed his engine, had to restart it, and now has got to pick his way up from the very tail end of the pack. Oh, does this turn stuff around? Now, we've already determined before the race got underway that if Ricky Johnson won, David Bailey would have to do better than 8th place in order to keep from being mathematically eliminated from any shot at the title. So we'll keep one eye on that situation as we go back to the top of the pack. As you can see, we've got ourselves number 5 right now, Ricky Johnson, ahead of Ron Lachine. Burnworth got taken out a little bit earlier. Burnworth went down, or I should say went out when Ricky Johnson went by him. So RJ in the lead, Lachine in 2nd place. Jeff Leake is still running in 3rd. And Jeff, I tell you, Jeff has had himself a real good season here. At the very beginning of the year, you may recall how Jeff was the guy who landed flat on his nose at Anaheim Stadium. No, I take that back. That was at San Diego, where he had to be airlifted out of there in a helicopter. A very serious injury that Motocross Action caught a spectacular picture of. The problem was the injury took him a couple of weeks off the circuit. It wasn't until about a month ago that he came back real strong. Last week at the Pasadena Rose Bowl, he finished 2nd to Ricky Johnson, and right now he's running 3rd. Here's RJ number 5 still on top. Lachine number 2 in 2nd place. Really hasn't looked to be much of a threat ever since RJ passed him. Not quite at the halfway mark of the race right now. And I can see by looking at the track that the cars, the Class 10 vehicles that we were looking at just a little bit earlier on our Moto Video picture tube right here, have really packed down the dirt. You're not looking at a lot of big, wide, loomy surfaces where you can get some great traction. The dirt is very hard packed down. It's a very rough surface, and because there's so little dirt on the side, you really have to watch your balance on these machines. Remember, these guys are all running knobby tires out there, and if they're not careful, that rubber can just wash out from underneath them at almost any opportunity. Now, I haven't said much yet about number 2, Ron Lachine, and I got to say that this is Ron's best main event performance of the 1986 season so far. Ron, as we mentioned earlier, he had some personal problems during the off-season, trying to adjust to a new team this year. This is his first season on Kawasaki, and Ron really has had a lot of tough time making the adjustment this year. But right now, running a very solid second place. Here we go with David Bailey. We've just been told Bailey has moved up into 10th place. Here's another look at Ricky's lead as he goes around the corner. He looks over his shoulder. He doesn't see Bailey. He looks twice. He looks a third time, sees Bailey way back. Hey, let's go to one of Ricky's biggest fans.
I'm with Big Al. He's been here since 7 in the morning. Big Al is in a bad mood. And when it says, what, VIP security, and you don't have a little pass, Al, what do you do to them if they're kind of hassling you?
Get them the hell out of here.
Now, you like twist their arm, or do you just pull
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I take their heads and I roll them around and I just kick them out of here, you know? Get brutal.
Now, where did you learn that? Did you go to security training school?
Yes, It's a one-day course.
And who teaches that?
I don't know. I forget his name. I wasn't paying attention.
He knocked you around, right?
Yeah, I think he did.
Okay, now you've got the credentials to knock anybody around. There's been some good-looking girls you've been hassling, and there's been some really scrawny...
I don't hassle the good-looking girls.
You hassle the scrawny little guys with no passes.
Yeah, and the fat girls.
And the fat girls, where do you send them?
Home.
Scrawny guys with no passes, where do you send them?
Home.
Where do you want me?
Oh, you can stay here.
Oh, I thought you were going to send me home. Hey, thanks, Big Al.
Sure.
Doing a great job.
Oh, I hope so.
Hey, do you know anything about motocross, supercross?
No, not a damn thing.
Who's your favorite? Do you have a favorite rider?
Johnson, he's been pretty nice, seriously.
Rick Johnson?
Yeah, been real nice.
Good attitude.
Very good.
Hasn't kind of roosted you with dirt or anything?
No, he's been a real good person, seriously.
All right. Big Al's rooting for Rick Johnson. Back to you, Greg.
Boy, he is one of Ricky's biggest fans, isn't he? And Dave, don't drop your pit pass anyplace down there. Here we go, back with the leaders right now. Ricky Johnson again looking back over his shoulder for David Bailey, and he does not see him. We saw a triple take just before we went to that interview with the security man. Ricky looked back over his shoulder 3 times and could not see that big number 6 anywhere. So he may be beginning to sense that championship scent. Remember, if Bailey does not get up any higher than 8th place, Ricky will clinch the overall title today, right here at Phoenix. We're trying to look back and count him back down right now. We're watching for number 6, David Bailey, to come around. There he is. David is all the way back down in 12th place. He's in the 12th position. He's got to pass 4 riders just to stay in contention. That's to stay within the mathematical realm, which will make it possible for him to win a championship, much less have a realistic chance at it. RJ in the lead. Number 2, Ron Lachine. Ron has a couple fast laps, a couple slow laps. He's been hanging right there about, well, anywhere from 1 to 4 seconds behind big number 5. There's a good shot. You can see just how hard that track is. You don't see much of a roost right there coming out from underneath the back tire. That shows you just how far or how tightly down that dirt is packed in there. 5 Johnson in the lead. Lachine in 2nd place, the Kawasaki rider. Again, Ron Lachine's best ride so far of the year. There's only one more round of the Supercross series to go after this. That's when everybody goes to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in June. Right now you can see David Bailey gets by 1 rider. That's Guy Cooper, so that puts him up into 11th place. He's still got 3 more positions to go just before he can be eliminated. A tough position for Bailey. A real bad start on his part. Actually, not so bad a start. He just got caught in traffic out to him between the 1st and 2nd corner. Then after that point, because of the fact that this track is fairly easy, and by being easy, I mean it's not nearly as technical as many of the Supercross tracks that you see, David's having a tough time passing him because he specializes in that stuff. Okay, there's number 3, Johnny O'Murray and Jeff Leask. After that, that's 3rd and 4th place. Number 1, Jeff Ward in 5th. 9, Bowen in 6th place. Bailey still has not climbed up out of 10th. Now this is unofficial, remember. We're just trying to count them down here. There may be a lapped rider or two, but I don't believe that Bailey has climbed up out of 10th place at all, and that spells big-time trouble for the former two-time Grand National champion. Nobody would have ever expected that Ricky Johnson would even have a chance of taking the Supercross title with one race left to go. But it looks like that's the way that this Phoenix race is developing. You see number 8, Eric Kehoe, back a bit there in the distance. Kehoe is a lap down. Your two front runners right next to each other, then a big, big gap before you get back to Johnny O'Mara in third. They're at the finish line again, number 5, rad and bad, Rick Johnson. Boy, has this been his year. Started off real nice at Anaheim. He almost won it there, and many people say he would have had it not been for that controversial blocking by Burnworth going on. Number 1, Wardy. We've talked before about how tough he has had it during this season. Seems like he's either falling on someone or having someone run into him almost all season long. Tough, tough time for him. I really can't say enough about the fact that Lachine is hanging in there in this race. Number 2 finally seems to have dialed in that 250KX of his and is really learning how to ride that Kawasaki around the track. It's becoming more and more apparent that Ricky's got a fairly comfortable lead up in front. So I'll tell you what, let's go back to an earlier interview that Dave Stanfield did with the former 250 national champ.
The style of your riding, give us a quick synopsis, how it's changed over the season from day one. Is it still the style king, two-hip style, or is it a more, hey, I've learned to control my speed a little bit more?
Well, it's a little bit of both, actually. It's the best of both worlds. I used to be a little bit crazy, go a little bit too fast and fall every now and then. Now I've sort of calmed myself down and I ride at a comfortable pace where I'm still going fast. But hey, the people don't come to sit and watch someone cruise around slow. They want to see some cross-ups and some long jumps every now and then. So you gotta please the people too. So I'm here to please the people, but most of all please myself by just going fast.
A lot of people forget that he was the champion of the 250cc outdoor class in 1984. Carried that plate all through the 1985 season. Here in 1986, of course, big number 5 on his bike. Now there's another look at David Bailey. Bailey, number 6, has worked his way up into 9th place. He still has got to finish at least in 8th. Otherwise, Bailey will be mathematically eliminated from any chance of taking the 1986 Supercross championship. 25 points is the amount. Oh, look at that! Bailey goes ahead and kills his engine in the sandpit. Oh, what a terrible break. That is going to throw his last chance completely out the window. Well, the refrigerator door's shut, the lights out, and you may as well take it on home, Santa, because I don't see how he is going to have any chance at all of moving up into a position to challenge Ricky Johnson here at Tempe, Arizona. A terrible, terrible break for David Bailey. That's a very deep sandpit that Bailey went into just a few moments ago. The problem is that there is some very tightly packed dirt right underneath that sand, and if you're not careful, your front end will lose all momentum going into that last berm. As a matter of fact, during press day a couple of days ago, Bailey tried to triple those very same jumps right there in the sand and ended up erupting a big gash in his leg. So that place apparently is going to be the end of him here for the 1986 season. He'll still be at the Los Angeles Coliseum for the final round, but he won't be able to contend for the number 1 plate. It looks like he'll have to settle for number 2. Now, I don't believe Ricky Johnson knows all this yet. Remember, Ricky can't count back 8, 9 positions during a race. As a matter of fact, he probably isn't even thinking about that at all. He's just figuring that David's back there in 4th, 5th, or 6th someplace. So we ought to have one real surprise puppy right after the checkered flag goes off right here. Ricky Johnson, number 5. In 1983, he dislocated his hip. He was out of racing for 6 months. In 1984, he won $250,000 as he took the 250cc outdoor national championship. He won 4 out of 10 events in the National Series that year. Of course, last year, 1985, he led the Rodeo controversy. That was the World Supercross Finals where many of the riders were caught sandbagging it, and Ricky Johnson was the first rider to get up in front of the crowd and say that he was going all out and he wasn't afraid to do so, even though he knew he'd be penalized with a second wave start. And right here, right now, even though he probably doesn't know it, he's on his way to becoming the 1986 Nippondenzo Supercross champion. Oh boy, is this a thrill! Just a matter of time right now. Lachine has dropped back off the pace, and Ricky is back into his old style and self. You know, I can't help but feel a little sorry for Ricky because he's probably feeling a little frustrated right now. The people all around the stands are waving at him like mad. And Ricky doesn't really have any towering jumps where he can show off that rad and bad style that he enjoys so much. When he raced at the Pasadena Rose Bowl just a week ago, he took one extra victory lap just for the sole purpose of doing some extra styling and waving at the fans. Here's David Bailey, number 6, again trying just as hard as he can to get back into the race, but with only about 2 laps left to go, time has all but run out for the former 2-time Grand National Champion, at least for the 1986 Supercross season it has. What a tough, tough series of breaks for David Bailey. And on the other side of the coin, what a great series of events for the newest member of Team Honda, Ricky Johnson. At the beginning of the year, he took 2nd at Anaheim to Bailey. The next race out at Houston, he would have won, but ended up finishing in 3rd place. Then he went down to San Diego and won for the first time ever in front of the home crowd. In Seattle, he took a 2nd to Jeff Ward and then won the very next day on Sunday. The white flag is out. 1 lap left to go before Ricky Johnson is crowned the 1986 AMA Nippondenzo Supercross champion. Friends, the people in the stands are standing up and going wild right now. They can count back and see just how far Bailey is. Ricky Johnson still apparently unaware of the title that's going to be given to him as soon as he crosses that finish line and as soon as David Bailey finishes 9 positions back. Number 2, Ron Lachine. You got to give Ronnie a lot of credit. He's had a super night out here tonight. That is his best finish, or I should say this will be his best finish when he crosses the finish line ever during the season. There's a nice little wave to the crowd from Ricky Johnson. He looks back over his shoulder. He's trying to count back and see where Bailey is, and he doesn't see him. The checkered flag is out. Ricky Johnson with the win. And as far as 2nd place goes, it should be Ron Lachine coming across the finish line any second now. There he is. Ronnie coming over, waving at his fans, doing a one-hander. So Ricky, remember, at this point still does not realize that he has apparently won, or I should say clinched, the Supercross championship. There's Ricky waving to his fans who have been so much behind him out here at Phoenix. Phoenix has really taken a liking to RJ, and there he tosses his goggles out to him to say thanks. And a very disappointed David Bailey comes across the finish line out of the top 8 and out of contention for the Supercross title. Let's go to Dave Stanfield.
Ricky Johnson, his dream in 1986. Rick, what was the dream?
To be Supercross champion, and it still hasn't hit me yet. They say I got 27 points. It's like I don't want to believe it because it seemed like it was too easy to win tonight. And like I say, it hasn't hit me yet. I can't believe it.
Well, it shouldn't be anticlimactic because you had so much energy, and out there, it seemed like everybody was rooting for you. You heard the fans, didn't you?
Yeah, I heard them, and I was just so excited. I wish there was a good jump out here I could cross up or do something for him, but there was nothing I could do, I was like, had my hands tied. I couldn't wave at the people, and I was bummed because I had a big lead and I wanted to show off a little bit, and there was nowhere to show off.
Okay, but you did feel that, hey, it was a race and you had to go out and race some people.
Oh, definitely. Ron Lachine put up a real good fight at the beginning of the race. Scott Burler was there for a while until Lachine disposed of him, and that made it easy for me. But
you can laugh now. The thoughts just leading up to this race, you must have had horror thoughts of not even qualifying for the main. How about those kind of nightmares?
They were there, but they were very distant. I tried to beat them out of my head. I rode so hard these past 2 weeks, I was dead determined that I was going to win. And I wasn't going to let anything or anybody stand in my way tonight. I was growling at everybody. I wanted to win so bad, and I did. And I can't believe I wrapped up the championship, too.
The last time you had a #1 plate?
Was in 1984, and it feels good to have it back on the front of my bike.
Too hip indeed. Rick Johnson, the new Supercross champion, the man to beat in the world of motocross, I think.